when I say contrarian, often it's I'm not trying to pay attention to what you're telling me. I'm trying to pay attention to what are we not seeing. What is not part of the current conversation, and that's where I spend most of my time. So when a business comes to me and says, "Look, my X is not doing well, how do I fix Y?" Um, my answer is normally, "What else is going on?"
So you found it, the soul of connection. If you're succeeding at everything except the relationships that matter most, this is for you. I'm Tressie Yanakawa, brain science, no fluff, real change.
Whew, Mark Young. And I'm going to say it like this, Mark Young, because you are so many things in the world and you are hyper focused on one thing at a time, but you're also the plethora of all the things and focus. So I'm super excited to learn more about you and what you do. And when we were talking earlier, you mentioned the psychology of marketing. And right now, being in marketing. So I want to hear more about that because that has been a fascination of mine since I was a kid, although I am not a marketer at all. It's a sideline passion, like an undercover passion for me. So I'm super excited to have you here. Thank you so much for coming and tell us who you are and why you are.
Wow, it's big questions there. Well, Teresa, first of all, thank you so much for the invite to be here and talk with you today. And yeah, you mentioned the consumer psychology and marketing, and I say that I'm kind of a weird animal because my full-time business is the CEO of an advertising and marketing agency, which is super fun to me. Except my passions in a weird way, as I mentioned to you before, I do have a PhD in functional medicine, but also a graduate degree in clinical psychology, as well as graduate degree in theology and multiple others. But I say that I'm that weird Venn diagram overlap between mind, body, and spirit. So what's super interesting to me is the overlap that takes place because I deal with entrepreneurs and business people, obviously, during the day. But the exact same, I'm going to use the word longevity mindset that people in business have, because the goal of a business is what we refer to in the MBA programs as the ongoing concern, right? You run a business as if it's going to run forever. The truth is that same mindset exists for people in the longevity space, right? Like I treat my body as if I'm going to last forever. And I don't treat my life with an expiration date. I treat it without one, which means I need to manage every aspect of my life as if it's not ending. And so that overlap between business and physiology exists all the time. And the same thing I find with health questions are the same thing that I find with business questions. And that is we focus on these downstream symptoms and seldom look for upstream solutions, right? We find the employee that's giving problems, but we never deal with the training that ended up causing the employee to not understand the way the job was done. Or we have the downstream issue of a bad knee, but we're not paying attention to why do we have a bad knee? We just take the Tylenol to make the pain go away. So yeah, I'm an interesting animal in that regard because I have all of that all wrapped into one interesting package. And yes, I do hyper focus on one thing at a time, but at the same time, I also look for the integrative patterns amongst multiple inputs.
I love that because seeing the web is everything. And my work is in corporate leadership and boards and with high profile couples. And when you talk about the symptomatology being the expression of a much deeper and often early relational issue, that if we can unpack that in a way that is agile and isn't jarring and we're not alerting the limbic system, then we can have available choices that are better and optimal best.
Yes.
So I'm curious how
We
that
talked about this at Flight Club, actually.
really.
Yeah,
Yeah.
we did. We were in a breakout group together. As soon as you said high value couples in business, I was like, I know exactly who. Yes.
Oh, Mark, I love it. Thank you so much
Yeah.
for the reminder. Yes. I love those breakout sessions with Flight Club. So yeah, and I think, that translates so well into marketing. And the reason that most of my friends are marketers is that we all work in relationship ultimately. So this communication, connection, relating thing, when you can see the problem and the avoidance of the problem, or the problems and the problems and the continuance of the avoidance subconsciously of the problem, how do you address that with people? Because your bio, everything on your website, and everything about you says that you're a contrarian. So help us understand how that can help us.
So here's the question. When I say that I'm a contrarian, it doesn't mean that I'm just a jerk and like bringing other things to a conversation. Um, One of the things that I laughingly say that I'm a contrarian, it's because I, I, I always say like, was it Wayne Gretzky that always used the quote that he skates to where the puck is going, not to where it is? And I believe when we're diagnosing problems, albeit in business and health or any of the relevant things, and that can be marketing, consumer psychology, whatever, the idea is that often the presenting symptom tends to get the attention, right? Where the puck is where everybody's eyes are currently fixated. The real wisdom is figuring out where is that going and where did it come from? Because I always say 1 is a dot, 2 is a line, 3 is a trajectory. So when I'm only looking at one point of data, that one point of data doesn't give me any trajectory. So I don't know if like one customer calls and complains and we ended up changing the entire policy over it. It's like, well, that's not fair. 2 customers complain. Well, all right, maybe there's something there. 3, now it's a pattern. And now we need to recognize what that pattern looks like. And again, the same thing happens in health, right? Like 1 time it happens, that's fine. 2 times it happens, now we need to dig a little bit deeper. 3 times we're calling it chronic. And it's those types of things. So when I say contrarian, often it's I'm not trying to pay attention to what you're telling me. I'm trying to pay attention to what are we not seeing. What is not part of the current conversation, and that's where I spend most of my time. So when a business comes to me and says, "Look, my X is not doing well, how do I fix Y?" My answer is normally, "What else is going on?" For instance, taking it to a marketing perspective, someone comes in and says, "Oh, I'm having so many issues with my Meta account, and Facebook is killing me," so on. And my response is not, "Let's jump in and fix Facebook." My response is, what omni-channel approaches do you have? Because Meta is only one piece of a big universe. What else are you doing outside of that one channel? And usually I find out that most people aren't, because until I can get this one thing fixed, I'm not going to do anything else. And my answer is typically, but you're not going to get that fixed if you don't do anything else, because the whole is always greater than the sum of the parts. And the same thing in health. Again, a patient comes in and has pain in a knee. The easy answer is give them a painkiller. The hard work comes from, why are you in pain? And that is the core of functional medicine, is source and origin and root cause problem.
Yes, and I spent about 20 years working in healthcare as well. So looking at that crossover with functional medicine and marketing, it's actually really vivid, because when you're looking, right, like what's the pain point, and then how do we solve not just the external motivator of the pain point, but how do we solve the actual problem? And that's true in functional medicine as well. So how does that show up for you when you're working with a client who comes in and says, "I just need you to fix my life because I don't have any reach. My revenue is down. I was with this marketing company for X number of years. What do you do differently?" How would you respond to that?
Oh, it's a good question, because that's kind of the question I get all the time. So funny enough, in my first book, which was called Date Your Clients, because again, I'm the contrarian, I actually addressed that exact same point. And that is, I actually, in that book, did a juxtaposition between personal relationships and professional relationships, and kind of pointed out that they're not that different. That the way that we court a potential spouse is not that much different than the way we court a potential client, and the exact same pitfalls can take place in both areas. And yet we tend to excel at one and fail at the other. And it's weird to me that the same skill set looks so different depending on the context. So when a potential client comes to me and, this is the way we did it there, so on and so forth, that the only way to address that is through early expectation setting. And I always use the examples that if I'm starting to date a woman and her ex used to bring her flowers every Friday, if we don't have a conversation about that, then the first Friday that I don't bring flowers, I failed. And yet it's an expectation that I never understood because it was never discussed. So my conversation with clients very early on is setting expectations of what is acceptable, what does our process look like, when should they be expecting something. And the reality is too many business people, and especially those solopreneur type businesses, they've been given false promises and expectations because some agency has decided they wanted to close a sale. And unfortunately, that has been a problem for them. So it's like we normally end up with clients that already have these damaged experiences. And because of that, it sets us up for failure if we're not very careful with it.
Yeah. I love how you're talking about relationship in work and at home. And that's how I actually started working with couples, was that working with top leaders and having them learn the tools, the optimal tools for them of great communication and clarity, which is what you're defining with the flowers. If we don't have the clarity, we don't really know what the expectations are. So when those tools were used at home, just kind of accidentally by these leaders, they would come back after 3 or 4 weeks and say, you know what, my home life is better. My wife likes me more. My kids don't call me a jerk when I walk in the door. What's happening? And so it is this clarity piece. And it's so interesting to me that so few of us, almost none of us, are taught how to have great communication and relationship skills when it really is based in trust, truth, clarity, presence. So to show up in marketing now is different than it was 6 months ago, 10 years ago. What does it mean right now to show up with that kind of clarity in marketing?
So, and again, I think it's the same thing we're talking about, right? Like the personal relationships and the business relationships, the same type of clarity takes place. And it can be the simple things as to how often do we meet and what are the KPIs that we're looking to track.
So basic.
It can be the super basic. And in some cases, the question I find most often when a client comes to us is, when can we expect results and what would this look like? And for most clients, they don't have an expansive history of good marketing. And because of that, they end up in a weird situation because we don't have that answer. I don't know when you can expect results. It'll depend on what happens. Probably the second most common thing that I hear from people is, we'll make a tactical recommendation and the response will be like, no, we've tried that. And I'm like, well, yeah, I get that you've tried it, but have you tried it right? Like, and it always sounds like I'm being argumentative when I say that, because I'm like, I know you tried that once, but I mean, literally just not having good copy could throw that entire thing off. And trying to explain to people that we tried that once doesn't mean it was tried correctly. So we're always in that position of, I don't want to call your baby ugly, and I'm not going to sit here and just pick on your exes. But at the same time, I don't know that what you tried was ever executed successfully. And that becomes, more of the conversation. And it's like, I'm sorry, I dated a brunette once, so now I can't date a brunette anymore because it doesn't work out with brunettes. Well, really? That's the logic we're bringing to this conversation. Recently, as recent as 2 weeks ago, Tressa, actually, I just published a 5-volume series of books called the E-commerce Brand Guide to the Galaxy. And it's a 5-book series that I'm loving right now because it took me a long time to get it out. And the reality is that it is a tactical play-by-play for e-commerce brands. And
Mm.
my thinking behind doing it was too many business owners, they don't know what to expect. They don't know what the words are. Like an agency comes at them and they're using 1,000 acronyms, and the business owner doesn't know if that's accurate or not. The business owner is just reacting to whatever is taking place. And, often they're nodding along because, well, you're the expert, I'll follow you. And the truth of the matter is like my entire reason for writing this, and we walk through everything from traffic to email campaigns to defining your message to copywriting to how to work on affiliate programs. Like literally I go through and just give away the entire tactical playbook that an e-commerce business owner can just run everything. And the catchphrase that I used in the book was, I'm writing this to make you dangerous, so that when you are dealing with an agency, you know how to interact with them, and you know what's right, and you know what the words mean, you know what the KPIs that you should be watching are. So you as a business owner need to be armed when you're going into battle and not just trusting that you hired the right person. Like you need to know, trust and verify.
Absolutely. I love that as the opening of a TED Talk or something from a stage, that I'm here to make you dangerous, happy, and successful.
That's exactly it. Here to make you dangerous.
Yeah, I love that. I love that. And so what gives you pause? What in your life makes you stop and have to take a breath and recalibrate? Because you're pretty sure.
That's a really good question. The biggest things that give me pause often are how much disclosure do I want to have here? Probably two things, and they're likely the first things that come to mind when you ask that are people and staffing, because staffing is a huge pause moment, because there is part of me at 50 years old that I've just lived a lot more years and had more experience than most of the people on my team. And some of what I look for is not necessarily what people bring to the table. So when we're staffing, when we're hiring contractors, like it's a big game of trust fall. And you don't know what you're getting, and you have to trust. And a lot of what gives me pause sometimes is when a person does something wrong, or I have to stop and go, but you thought that what you were doing was right. And I think that's even true in relationships and true everywhere. And that is when a person does something that violates my rules, albeit at work or even in relationships, like, why did you think that was right? Or why did you think that was appropriate? And is that a retraining on your part or mine?
I love that. I love that ending, because that leaves it open to, so yeah, is that my thing? And have you found, and I'm sure it's rare, but when you have found that the thing is yours, what's the process?
Well, for me, I often say I don't want to be the smartest person in the room, and I want to be challenged. And anecdotally, I will tell you, I had a friend back in college, and because I'm the contrarian, and she made a comment, and she was like, "Well, you just always think you're right." And my response, and usually your fastest response is probably the one that's most genuine because it wasn't calculated. And my immediate response was, of course I think I'm right, because if I thought I was wrong, I would change my opinion. Like, everyone thinks they're right, because if I didn't think I was right, I wouldn't hold this opinion anymore. And the minute you prove me wrong, I change. And it's like, I want to be challenged on a regular basis. So my process, when someone does bring something to my attention and I stop and say, yes, you are correct. Like, I like that. I'll give you my two-part. I'm going to circle back there. The first one was people. The second one was AI. AI gives me a lot of pause. And I will tell you, it gave me a lot of heartburn last year because it was much more unknown than it is right now. And it also is collapsing industries in many ways, or will very soon. And last year was a time for me to stop and go, okay, how is this going to affect me? How is this going to affect my industry? How is this going to affect my team? And by the end of those sleepless nights, had me down a rabbit hole where I am incredibly woven into AI at this point, which is exciting and scary and all of the things wrapped up in one. But that also comes to hiring different, because I'm not hiring people anymore who can do a job. I'm hiring people who can think and collaborate in a system they've never worked in before. No one hires into a job right now with AI on their resume. It hasn't been around long enough. So I'm surrounding myself, or trying to surround myself, with people who have the potential to have a skill that they've never used before. And it's really changed the world. And I'll give you an example. I interviewed a media buyer last week. On his resume, outstanding. He was a former New York Stock Exchange trader who turned into a Google AdWords specialist because he understood that marketing using Google was the same as doing stock trades. And I'm like, that's brilliant. Like, I love your crafting for numbers, great personality. Like, everything seemed to be a no-brainer. And yet where I had to take the conversation was, we no longer buy media the way that you used to buy media, because all of our media is bought in a platform. And I started showing him the way we do it. And I could tell that, like, his head started to hurt watching it. And it was like, I'm not saying no, I'm saying that I need you to unlearn everything that you've learned about how to do this job, because I'm going to ask you to do it differently. So my interview is not about your tactical experience. My interview is about your adaptability. And what a different conversation to have when we're hiring staff people.
Oh, yeah.
And then connecting those dots. When we talked about, these are the people that we need to bring in, and this is how this needs to happen, and how my team needs to download my brain in so many of these areas. My chief of staff questioned me the other day, and I told my team, like, before any AI system deploys in our company, I want to personally interact with it, because I want it to have the same values, and I want it to have the same tactics or strategies that I have. And her question, she went, I'm not questioning that that's a great idea, and I think it is a great idea now. She said, my question is, how do we, in essence, if everything we do gets to your level, she said, how do we strategically upgrade you? Like, because I don't want you to be the ceiling.
Mm-hmm.
I was like,
Great
oh my
question.
God, what a great question, right? Like, how do we upgrade you? And I'm like, wow, that's, yeah. Like,
That's a great consideration. How do we check in with ourselves and each other so that we are not the ceiling, so that we are not the bottleneck at some point, even though we're initially the visionary? That's so captivating. And this thought of being, multi-potentiate, while also having clarity, while also having flexibility, is and adaptability, which are two different things, flexibility and adaptability. The skill sets that we need now, that we used to be hyper focused on being like surgically technical about, I do this and I do this and this, and that's what I do and I'm great at it. But now you're asking people to come in with potential.
it's weird.
It's weird.
And unfortunately, it's harder to hire for potential, because it's probably where I've made my greatest hiring mistakes over my career. Has been hiring a person for potential, as opposed to hiring a person for skill.
Right, that applies to dating and partnering as well.
You're correct. And the thing is like, I would always tell young men, like, be the man she wants. Don't, if you're looking for the woman that you're looking for, and she has to be all of these things, then you better be the guy that she's looking for. Like,
even if that's not the whole truth of you, though. I mean, you have to be the truth of you. You have to be the truth of you.
I agree with you. You do need to be the real you. I'm not saying that they should be a facade, but I'm saying if you're looking for a person who's in great physical condition, well, she's probably looking for a man who's in great physical condition also.
Right.
Like,
right.
be that guy. You know,
Right.
if you're looking for a woman who's financially comfortable, then you probably want to be financially comfortable yourself first, because why would she want to be with you?
Mhm.
Uh, and
Mhm.
it's to my opinion, it's always been the matter of, instead of trying to go find the right person, start by being the right person.
I love that. You know, this brings up the question for me because you have your brain in so many things and you're able to distill. You're a great filter, distillation. Like your viewpoint is optimized, I believe, because of who you are and that you are a contrarian and that and you have not only dabbled, but you've excelled in so many things. So what is one thing that if you were to disappear from the planet at 3 o'clock today, what would you want everyone to know that comes from you and only you?
Yeah, I don't think that there's anything about me that I need anybody to know. I will say, I'll say two things. The first one is going to be my credo, which is just do everything. And that is, I laughingly say that I will die with a lot of regrets, but none of them will be the things I didn't try. um, because I'm willing to try anything and do everything is the phrase that I use all the time. So I think too many people get stuck in fear and doubt, rather than just pushing forward and trying it. I mean, worst that can happen is you fail.
Wait a minute though. I love this. Where has that gotten you into trouble? Because it
Oh
has to have
my
gotten you
gosh, so many times, so many times. It has cost me fortunes, and I've had fun doing it. Um, and the truth of the matter is, you know, I once had a mentor of mine use the phrase when it came to actually like hiring staff people. He's like, if you're at 51% batting average, you're doing well, because I don't need to never fail, because if I'm never failing, I'm never trying. So it's gotten me into business ventures that have been terrible. It has gotten me clients that to this date, I just can't stand even saying their names, because they've just been a terrible energy in my life. Sometimes it's gotten me into situations because I've accepted things that I didn't want to, and I knew better than, and I didn't stick by my own gut reaction, right? That melt
Mm.
flat will, you know, blink sort of thing, thin slicing. Um, but I will say that I'm not going to regret the things I didn't try.
I
And I think part of that is having watched so many people in my own life who have died wishing that they would have done things. Um, and you know, oh, I could have, would have, should have. And the reality is like at the end of all of that, it just makes me stop and go, I know, but you could have.
Yeah, I love that. I spent a little bit of time consulting in hospice care and got to go out in the field. And I asked everybody, you know, is what do you need? Like, do you have any regrets that we need to fulfill now? Um, and every one of those people said, I regret not.
Right.
So to your point, you know, I regret not talking to the cute girl at the fourth grade roller skating, you know, thing, whatever. Um, I regret not having done the career that I wanted to do instead of the career that my parents said I needed to have so I would be safe. Like so many like hugely
Absolutely.
impactful things that at the end of life was nagging, that was deep. So
Mhm.
I love that you've taken those chances. And what do you say to people who have not done that and are terrified to take those
Start
chances?
now. My gosh, like don't let another minute go by that you're not taking a chance on something. And again, I believe it's all rooted in people's fear. I mean, you know, what do they say? Decisions are rooted in either love or fear. Those are the only two things that motivate a human being. And I think when people don't act on the things that they understand, would provide them fun, or would provide them fulfillment, or would provide them novelty, um, my answer is do it now. Like there are zero reasons not to be out doing the things that you can try. And you know what? If it doesn't work out, you learned quickly, and now you can move in another direction. But I refuse to spend another 6 minutes not trying something new, or getting on with life, because I find that to be wasteful. And I want to finish that other thought, and that is the second thing I would tell people, and this integrates, is first of all to do everything. And my second point in that was faith forward.
Okay.
100% faith forward. I'm a Christian, and I want that to be broadcast. But at the same time, what I would say to that is that when I look at the potential of being able to live and do the things that I want to do, even if they turn out to be mistakes, I've often been accused of someone saying, you're just never satisfied. It's never enough. It's never good enough. Nothing's ever, keeps you captivated long enough. And my answer to that, and it took me a long time to get there. And when I got there, my answer was, I realized that the reason why I'm never satisfied and always want more and want to push to the next level is because, we're told biblically that, to those who are given much, much is expected. And I've been gifted in a tremendous number of ways. And I believe that to not maximize the output for every gift I've been giving is just simply an insult to my creator. Mm-hmm. And I can't live that way. Mm-hmm. If I've been given a brain, then I am going to use it to the extent that it can be used. And if I've been given a talent, I want to use it to the extent that I've been given. If I've been given wealth, if I've been given health, if I've been, I'm going to go to the gym and I'm going to lift as heavy as I can tonight. It's not because I'm just vain. It's simply because I've been given a body that's capable of lifting heavy things, and I want to do that because it's in gratitude, not in any form of lack of contentment.
I love that. So you are a grateful and compassionate and insightful contrarian. And
I'm a mess.
Oh, it's all beautiful. And I really appreciate your time today. Where can people find you and learn more and work with you?
Absolutely. I just tell people to go to my personal website, which is themarkyoung.com. And if they just go to themarkyoung.com, my books are there, links to my businesses are there. Everything about me is actually right on that website. So it's easy enough to find. My podcast links, everything is all there.
I love it. And themarkyoung.com, you are, I'm sure, polarizing, and I am compelled to know more about you. Thank you so much for being with us today.
Thank you for the invite, Tressa. So good seeing you again.
You too. Thank you.
You dove in. This is the Soul of Connection. Subscribe now. Stay close. Your full life depends on it.